and so, some of the technical things we're kind of very attuned to and capable of, but I think this kind of serves a slightly different market. We were talking a little bit about prototyping.
Absolutely.
We see a big opportunity around that. But can you talk a little bit more about custom code? So for example, our team generally wouldn't use things that are off the shelf. I mean, we'd use some kind of a kit of parts to get us started, but then beyond that, we would want to drill deep into more sophisticated things. Can you explain how you handle that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, everything that we build is built on top of HTML5, and that means that kind of running through everything is JavaScript. We're Node.js on the back end. And so all of those individual nodes that you saw actually have JavaScript behind them. And one thing that we allow is we have a custom JavaScript node that you can drop in and double click on it, and then you can create a JavaScript function right there. So we really have everything from a high level where you're dragging and dropping high level pieces like a Google map onto your screen, all the way down to writing code if you want to do that.
Great. So kind of riffing on that, talk about like more when, I can see this being very valuable, especially in your prototyping phase, but tell me about like if you have a really large project with a lot of development, say a relatively large size team, how does the tool manage like very complex applications? Is there a limit to how complex apps get, or is there some way you can kind of effectively scale towards, like, say you have an app that is very sophisticated? Like, how does that help?
Well,
that?
the main way we do that is that we have these components. So Cabana is really, any app is made up of many of these components. So like I said, the product locator. You could have one person working on the product locator, and they put that into the collection, and then multiple app projects can draw from those collections. So if you sort of properly set up your project so that reused pieces and you split it up, you can have different people working on those at different times. We are working on some solutions to better integrate with, because we know people are using things like Git and stuff like that. So we're working on doing some features that sort of break up a Cabana project into individual files that you can check in and actually do diffs against and stuff like that.
I guess also, is there a limit to how many components you can have? And like, for example, if you have a project with 10,000 components, how easy is it to navigate that in your, like, is there, because like right now, if you think about like a traditional app, you have a bunch of files.
Yeah.
There's ways you can search for code, but this seems like it's a different model. So
it is. I should mention that we all come from the video game. We have a video game background. My co-founder and I, we ran a video game studio and sold it to Sega, and so we're used to dealing with very complex, large projects. We did the Iron Man game and stuff like that. So we're working with virtual worlds, animation, all sorts of characters, that kind of stuff. So we're used to dealing with lots and lots of this kind of data. And really, we know that you can have 10,000 components as long as you architect them correctly to be very light and just be little tiny containers. And so that's kind of, if you were to conceptually break open a Cabana project, it's just tons of these things. In fact, every screen is technically a component. Inside that has multiple components. So we definitely are very cognizant of the need to have tons of these things, and that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I think I told you yesterday that the guys at Shasta Ventures sent me your video. I don't know if they were supposed to or not, so I haven't outed them. But I thought it was, super, super cool. I thought it was one of the, best demos I've ever seen.
Cool.
But our business problem is not wiring together components. Right now our business problem, we have programmers that can wire together jQuery mobile really easily. So a tool that lets them draw a line instead of writing a line of code doesn't really help us. Our real challenge is building distribution across a variety of devices, which is iPhone, Android, tablets, even Windows Phone 7 is starting to prop up. You got to imagine a multi-brand company like CBS. Microsoft gives us a lot of advertising dollars when we ship fantasy sports, right? For the baseball season, and it's not on Windows Phone 7. Somebody gets a shitgram, right? So we really need to reach those audiences in a very, very cheap and effective way. So what are you guys looking to do to address that?
Well, I would say that the big thing is we're very, very bullish on mobile web apps. We're bullish on HTML5 being a standardized platform for doing app development. We think that a lot of the knocks that you get on some of that are around things about performance and that kind of stuff. As I said, we're from the game industry. 60 frames a second is kind of what we go for. And so we try to solve the performance problems for you that you typically get with HTML5.
But it's the
to do
screen
this
size problem, that's the
I'm
problem. The
sorry?
screen size issue.
Screen size as well. No,
Yeah.
and we recognize that and definitely have things within Cabana to deal with different platforms and that kind of stuff. I would say the big thing that we do on the distribution side, one reason we really like mobile web apps is that they allow you to distribute via URL as opposed to going through necessarily the app stores. Now, for someone like CBS, that might not be a problem, but I do not think Apple wants 1 million people's wedding apps on their store, nor do they want tons of sports teams. And if you think about the way the web went, where it went from large websites to people being able to create websites for kind of everything, we think apps are going there as well. And we think that that requires a different distribution model. And we think distributing via URL as a mobile web app makes a lot of sense for that long tail of apps.
So I have a question, Reeve.
Yeah.
So assuming, these guys kind of have the impression that, that their teams don't need this level of simplicity maybe in the development stage. So assuming a developer, needs a tool like Cabana to build a mobile app, what do you, I mean, on the back end, right, they still need a place to deploy. Do you have a back end or a deployment partner of choice, or because that's a difficult task too, right?
We have a number of them. I'll do another plug for StackMob. So we, because we're HTML5 based, and we have a whole bunch of those nodes and pre-built stuff that access any REST-based API. So anyone who has a REST-based API, you can hook up stuff really, really quickly. In fact, I was giving a presentation in New York, and one of the guys from Foursquare was like, "Oh, hey, how do we integrate with, with the Cabana Exchange?" And I said, "Oh, let's talk after the next person." And I texted my co-founder and said, "Hey, I'm talking to the Foursquare guy. Think he could get something up and running?" 45 minutes later, he had gotten the Foursquare API, integrated the Foursquare API, and had an app that was accessing their data in 45 minutes. So we do that really, really rapidly. We want to be the, the one reason we like StackMob so much is like we're kind of the front end version of them, and we basically want to work with any back end that's out there.
I have a quick question. With the components, it seems like you have a good opportunity for a developer community. Is that something you guys are focusing on? Is that something that's beginning to emerge?
That is yes. So the Cabana Exchange, the reason we didn't call it Cabana Marketplace is that we want people to exchange those components. So right now, we started with building a whole bunch of those components ourselves. We started working with some other partners and allowing them to build stuff directly for it. But eventually what we'd like to see is that this is a place that you kind of go to get all sorts of pieces that anyone can build. And even to the point, and we haven't built this out yet, but we'd love to see a future where you could go and say, hey, I need a currency converter. I don't know where to go get currency information from online. I just want to say, turn dollars into euros, and someone could go and build that for you.
Right.
So.
And is there licensing for that? Like, can you, like, for example, could it become my job to become a Cabana component builder?
Yes, and we would probably take a small cut for the,
Of course.
The idea is that you would go build it. I'd use your component.
Yep.
At the end, when I go to publish my app,
Yep.
it would say, here's my parts list, and most of the money goes to you, and a little bit goes to us.
All right, and we're out of time.
Cool. Thank you.
I was hoping you'd give a yes or no answer.
Maybe.
And up next we have, so from mobile to Java,